and thanks for joining us. We are excited to have another Parks and Purpose series program and to visit with all of you today. As you are joining and logging in, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Feel free to put your name and where you're logging in from. What part of the county do you live in, or are you visiting us from a warmer climate today? So feel free to pop those into the chat as we're letting folks in and joining us today. We're excited to see you all and have some great conversations today. We've got Lisa from Lamont, Michigan. Thank you so much for joining us, Lisa. And Kirsten. Oh, Kirsten, thanks for joining us. From Hastings and Canary. Canary is a great organization that has been very supportive of Ottawa County Parks Foundation. Hello, Rich. Thank you for being here. From Historic Ottawa Beach, and Paul, also from Lamont, and Linda from Holland. Thank you so much for joining us. Shelley from Grand Haven. Thank you for being here, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and get started here today. I want to introduce myself. I'm Katie Wright with the Ottawa County Parks Foundation and Ottawa County Parks. I am the coordinator of fund development for Ottawa County Parks and the Parks Foundation. For those of you who may not be aware, the Ottawa County Parks Foundation is an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization established to support Ottawa County Parks and Recreation Commission. The foundation is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, so we're going to go over a couple of those highlights from the 10th anniversary today. But just as a little sneak peek, we have raised over $13 million in support of Ottawa County Parks and Recreation over the last 10 years, which is a phenomenal effort by some amazing folks dedicated to Ottawa County Parks. The foundation supports access to health and wellness, education, and natural resource management programming, as well as supporting some of the property acquisition and construction projects. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more a little later on today. To get more information on the Parks Foundation and how to become a supporting member, you can visit our website, and I believe Angela will be able to put that link in the chat here shortly. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us for this Parks and Purpose series. This is our third one in the series. We decided to do these programs in gratitude for our foundation donors and supporters, and wanted to create a way that we could give a sneak peek and some behind the scenes information regarding what is coming up in the world of Ottawa County Parks. So if you visited us the last 2 months, you were able to see about Connected County Park, as well as a Great Eagle program from Curtis. So before we dive into our programming a little bit more, just wanted to do a few Zoom housekeeping items. So we ask that you please keep your microphones on mute. We will have some time for Q&A towards the end of the program, but feel free to put those questions in the chat throughout as they come to mind. We will try to get back to them so that we can answer them a little bit later. So I do want to introduce to you all Mr. Jason Shamblin, our Parks Director here. Jason is joining us to be able to talk a little bit about the annual report for Ottawa County Parks. Many of you already know Jason, so I won't read through his bio here. He's got 25 years of Parks and Recreation leadership experience. We're so grateful to have him here in Ottawa County Parks and a full resident of the great state of Michigan, coming to us from Ohio. So we're happy to have him here in the mitten. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason to get us kicked off. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Katie. So thanks everybody for joining. This is one of the fun things we get to do is talk about some of our accomplishments we've had. But before we get started, we felt like we came up with this diagram to explain the relationship between the foundation and between the Parks Commission and how we work together. So again, Katie explained that the foundation's a separate 501c3. We do have a Parks Commissioner who's a representative on the board, and then I sit on the board as well as an ex officio with a non vote. But that's how we tie the two together. The foundation's a separate 501c3, and they're really charged with raising funds, accepting donations to support the Parks Foundation. And then their responsibility is really to steward and invest and oversee those funds. The Parks Commission submits grant requests or requests for reimbursement or invoicing. Then the foundation board has to approve and authorize those funds being distributed back to the Parks Commission. The Parks Commission's formed. It's a commission underneath the Board of Commissioners. The Parks Commission has oversight of day-to-day operations and policy and use and development and planning and implementation of all the things, programs, activities, development that happen within the parks. So yeah, we think that's helpful. And then you can see how our staff fall in there. So it's always a lot of fun as we look back on our year. It's worth noting we do run, our fiscal year runs from October 1st through September 30th. So it's a little unusual fiscal year, but this was our first full year when we looked at our strategic plan. So we developed our first ever strategic plan. We developed a vision statement to be a leader in creating a legacy of expansive, accessible, and biodiverse natural communities for all to enjoy. So as we talk about some of these projects, think about the greenways and how they're expansive and connecting people and that accessibility to everyone. And then the strategic plan identifies our 5 core initiatives. So conservation, connectivity, community engagement, organizational quality, and then strategic land acquisition and protection. So today we're at a little over 7,700 acres that we either own or manage. It's 42 properties in total, over 150 miles of trail, and we're up over 2 million visitors a year now. So we've held pretty steady for the last 3 years at up over 2 million visits. So we saw a huge peak of like over 36% during COVID, and then that's held pretty steady, over 25% pre-COVID visits, over 2 million visitors. So, and as we talk about some of our strategic land acquisition, some of the big milestones. So we did our dedication opening, the expanded portion of Rosie Mound. So that was an additional 127 acres. That brings Rosie Mound together combined to 291 acres. So that was an instrumental partnership with the foundation. We're working on bidding out the contract for the development of the accessibility improvement, so a small parking area, and then accessible trail system there connecting in with the existing. And we're pretty excited about this because it will have an accessible trail up to the top of the dune bluff and overlooking the other part of Rosie Mound, but then out to Lake Michigan. So we'll have a fully accessible trail there. Will be really special. And I mentioned, so the foundation's been fundraising to help with the acquisition and development. We still have a little ways to close that out. So if anybody would be interested in contributing to that, make sure you connect with Katie. Our goal is to close out that campaign this year. And last year, we also closed on 185 acres at the Bend area. So that's in Georgetown, and that property connects right up with the Grand River. So when we're done with acquisition, we'll be around 700 acres. And so did we lose the screen? No?
Yeah.
Yep. Can you all still see our screen? No. Okay, let's make sure and see what's going on here.
It's back on there, Jason.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the Bend area, so both of these were acquisitions that were in the works for 20 plus years. And John Schultz had worked on them before me and laid those foundations, and then I was privileged enough to come and help. So the Bend area will be over 700 acres, and we'll have a dedication this upcoming spring on that event, and then we'll be working on planning out master planning and access improvements for that property. So we also have work going on around Macatala Greenway. So we're working on the Middle Macatala project in partnership with Holland Charter Township, the Outdoor Discovery Network, and Zeeland Township, and we'll be connecting Hawthorne Ponds through the Middle Macatala all the way up, and it will then connect into Upper Mac. So we've been working on this for a number of years. There will be a trailhead at each side with restroom facilities at Hawthorne Ponds, and then we'll be working on one at Upper Mac also. So we'll be doing a dedication. I think that one's scheduled maybe tentatively for June 23rd. And we'll make sure that folks get invites to that. And then back up to the Grand River Greenway. So the Idema Explorers Trail is a 36.5-mile trail segment from Grand Haven to King County. And the Stearns Bayou segment we opened and dedicated last year. So it was right in the middle, goes over Stearns Bayou, but it connected between Connor Bayou and then the Grand Haven Township trails that actually go all the way into Grand Haven. So now you can connect, and we call it, you can see the loop there. You can cross the bridge, the drawbridge, pick up the North Bank Trail, and it's about a 24-mile loop now that's completed. And then we're working on, this identifies 3 different additional segments that we're working on, 2 of which we hope to break ground on. So the first segment of Bass River, it'll be a couple miles. Overall, we'll have about 7.5 miles through the Bass River, which will just be absolutely incredible. This is the first phase. They'll connect into Riverside. So that's phase 1. We should be constructing that this year. And then the Eastmanville connectors. So that connects in Eastmanville Bayou and will connect into Bass River on the east side. And then we're working in conjunction with Allendale Township, MDOT, the Road Commission. So we will be then connecting from the Eastmanville segment through Allendale on 60th Avenue. So this will connect Allendale both north and south of M45. And at 60th Avenue, it'll be a throughway intersection with a traffic light there now. So we're really excited about that. The township's been very supportive and has helped fund this and really wants to see that that intersection there with a traffic light to give safe pedestrian access across M45. And then it'll connect in with the segment that connects in with GVSU that's already built. So that's still several years out, but it's really exciting to see the progress on that. And then the foundation has supported our programming. So we have lots of people served, over 28,000 folks visited our nature center. We had over 5,000 students participate in our outdoor education programs all across the county, numerous program partners. And one of the things I want to just highlight here, kudos to our staff. We have an all-day spring break camp. But we also kicked off our first ever full-day summer camp at Hager Park. So we know that childcare in Ottawa County is one of those areas that's really a challenge. And so summer camps can serve school-age kids, right? What do you do when you have school-agers? You don't necessarily need childcare, but you also don't want them sitting at home in front of the screen. Well, sign them up at Hager Park for summer camp. So, and as we grow that, we hope to expand that throughout the county and get kids outdoors in the parks in the summer. So we also have numerous partnerships with various different agencies, the health department, the sheriff's office, and Then another program that the foundation supported was our Visit Every Park Challenge. So this was really exciting to see folks getting out and visiting every park. We had over 90 participants who actually registered. We know that number was much, much higher though. So just, different opportunities to encourage people to get out and visit the parks and be healthy. So the foundation also supports our conservation efforts and our stewardship crew. So lots of invasive species managed and battling oak wilt and hemlock woolly adelgid on top of our other normal invasives. We had a couple different fires last year, prescribed burns, and I've been told that they might be trying to have one this upcoming weekend if the weather holds. So the foundation also supported our native plant greenhouse. So, we collect our native seeds, and then between our stewardship crew and volunteers, they sowed over 3,000 plugs that then we were able to use in different restoration projects. So really exciting. That's something that we're excited to expand and grow. We also had a native seed library. So, and again, it's our staff, but we also leverage a lot of our volunteers to help with that, as well as our vernal pool monitoring. So again, the busy year last year, we had our grand reopening of Ottawa Sands and then the grand opening of the Item Explorers Camp. Both of those projects, the foundation was instrumental helping with the acquisition, the development, and then obviously the experiences out there. So if anybody hasn't been to Ottawa Sands, it's a little over 1.5 mile loop around the lake. Go explore that. Stop by the Welcome Center, and the staff are normally there and can give you a tour of the Item Explorers Village if you want. So a few more of our projects. Organizational quality, so really looking at reinvesting, continuing to maintain the facilities we have. And we know people are coming to the parks and they have high satisfaction, so we want to make sure that we continue to invest in those. So again, we couldn't do much of the work that we do without the foundation. We also had our Friends of Ottawa County Parks. So they celebrated their 20th year last year, and then that was their final year. So they disbanded, but what we're doing is we're going to continue to use the Friend of Ottawa County Parks as we talk about our volunteer group and the volunteer activities, and we have a volunteer newsletter, and we'll continue to use that every year. So, and there in the bottom left is a picture of our native greenhouse that we have, and I'm told they've got lots of the seeds out there. Nothing, as of yesterday, nothing had popped up yet. And then the bottom right, that was the Rotary Overlook at Ottawa Sands, and the foundation also helped support that and facilitate that project too. So a little bit about our expenses and revenues, our organizational chart, and our total acreage split up by Greenway. All this, I'm sure we can share a link. It's on our website. There's also a promotional video out there, so watch the video. Jessica and Riley did an amazing job of putting that together for us.
All right, and I'll give you a little more detail on the foundation annual report. As we mentioned before, Ottawa County Parks Foundation is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Over those 10 years, we've protected over 500 acres by supporting the park in those efforts. We have supported through funding over 14 miles of accessible trails, and we have also through funding supported over 850 students participating in nature-based programming free of cost. We have helped to grow programming with Ottawa County Parks by providing additional funding, as Jason mentioned earlier. As you can tell through our conversation, through what Jason has said and what I am sharing, there is a tremendous partnership between Ottawa County Parks and the Parks Foundation, which is really a great opportunity for us to take what the community is highly interested in, which is our Ottawa County Parks, and find ways to give additional support. So through these past 10 years, as I mentioned early at the very beginning of this session, we have raised over $13 million in 10 years. We have provided over $7 million of support to Ottawa County Parks, and we have taken those donations and we have invested them wisely and earned close to $1.8 million in investment returns. So what that means is we will continue to grow donations that we get. We work through the timing of when we get a donation and when the park needs that funding. Right now, we're holding approximately $6 million in donations for projects that we already know are coming up. So while we're waiting for those projects to be built and finished or land to come up, we are investing those funds wisely so that they will continue to grow, so that we can continue to support your Ottawa County Parks. So this is a bit of a timeline. It's going to be hard for you to see on your screen, so we're going to make sure that this is available for you to see. It's also on the foundation website. But this just kind of goes to what we talked about earlier in that timing. We started 10 years ago with just a $7,000 investment into the foundation. We continue to raise funds yearly for some very, very large projects, as well as some smaller initiatives. We invest those funds, we continue to grow them, and we give them to the park as they need. As we mentioned earlier, Rosie Mound, we have that property acquisition, and we're continuing to fundraise for the renovations, the trails being put in, a parking lot being put in. Construction will start on that in 2027. We're about 80% of our fundraising goal, so just a little bit more to go. If you want to learn more about that, feel free to reach out. So what have we been doing this past year? Well, just this last year, we gave close to $800,000 for property acquisition at the Bend area. We gave funding to the Rosie Mound acquisition. We've been helping to put in, to fund putting in benches and other park amenities. We received just over $600,000 in donations, and we gave the park just over $1 million. And we are happy to say that we have some very strong donors who support the foundation and stick with us year after year. So we generally are above the national average in our donor retention. Of course, we're always looking to continue to retain more and more of our donors to support our parks, as well as gain new donors. Different ways that you can be involved with the Ottawa County Parks Foundation is through a Park Sustainers Club. This is a monthly donor club. You can donate at any level that you wish, from $5 a month to several $100s a month. The choice is yours. You could also sponsor some of our upcoming activities, such as Art for the Parks, our breakfast lunch, and our health and wellness initiatives that we talked about a little bit earlier today through, we have a race. We also have our walking series and Step It Up, and a wide variety of other programs. Our Parks for Life program is for planned giving and estate giving. We would love to have folks mention the Ottawa County Parks Foundation in their wills, and any other way that you would like to remember and honor your local parks. We will be happy to help you with that. And of course, tributes, as we mentioned earlier, we are able to help you with bench programs. Through our bench program, if there's a way that you want to honor a loved one, we'd be happy to talk with you further about that. We have different levels of giving through our stewardship circles. And there are, as you can see from this slide, whether you give $250 a year or $5,000 a year. Your support is tremendous and helps go a long way in supporting your Ottawa County Parks. Different ways that you can connect with us and be a part of the Ottawa County Parks Foundation, of course, is to donate. We're a foundation. We'll take your donations anytime you want. Feel free to attend any of our events or any park events. Become a volunteer with the Ottawa County Parks Foundation by being one of our committee members or volunteering at any of our events. Or you can also support your parks by being a volunteer with the parks. And through there, I love that they have honored the Friends of Ottawa County Parks by now calling their volunteer program the Friends. So that is fantastic. Subscribe to our monthly e-newsletter, follow us on Facebook or on Insta. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jason to give us a little more information on what's coming up for parks.
So as we talk about the parks, I think, so if nobody's heard, we, in 2026, we have a Parks Millage that will be coming up. So the Parks Foundation formed in 1987. And then in 1996, they passed their first ever Parks Millage at 0.33 mils. And so then that's been renewed twice. So it was renewed in 2006 by, I think, about 65%, and then renewed in 2016 by 72%. And when I got here, we started doing our parks, recreation, and open space plans for 5 years. We do a plan. And I realized we're at a transitional point as our millage was maturing, that really after 2026, as we look at this next millage, we really don't have millage funding to allocate towards either new capital projects or new initiatives. So when we did our survey then, in 2020, we asked the question for the first time about an increased millage. And so it wasn't a scientifically valid survey, but we had over 4,400 people participate, and over 77% supported or leaned towards increasing the millage. So that really was when we started the conversation around our strategic plan, really to engage the public and try to understand what the public wanted us to do in the future as we looked at this upcoming millage increase in 2026. So, you know, we had over 6,000 people participate in the strategic planning process, stakeholder engagement. We did a public survey that was informal. We had over 5,000 people participate. Our consultants were hoping for 1,000. We had over 2,000 written comments. So again, our consultants who helped us, they were hoping for 1,000. We had over 2,000 written responses, over 5,000 people who participated. And we did a scientifically valid residence poll that we just updated again in February. So what we know this past year, over 90% of the households in Ottawa County used one of our parks, and there's a 93% approval rate. So again, as we talk about organizational quality, we know people are coming, they're using them, and we want to make sure we're investing in maintaining the infrastructure that they already are using and loving. But as you look at our core initiatives, conservation, community engagement, land acquisition, protection, connectivity, organizational quality, ties right back to the feedback that we heard from the public and wanting. And, you know, all these were you know, incredible feedback from the public about where they want to see us moving in the future. So, you know, what we heard is people want accessible trails and accessible facilities. They want us to take a lead in countywide stewardship of natural resources. We have an amazing staff who lead by example, meaning we take care of our property and battle the invasive species in our properties, but really we want to be out there and providing that that education and resource to the general public, as well as other local jurisdictions about how to manage and maintain their natural resources and prioritize those. And modern restrooms. So in 1996, when the Parks millage was first passed, you know, the nationwide, the norm was pit toilets or vault latrines. Today's families, when they're in the parks, they want modern restrooms and they want them available year round. So as somebody who has a family, you know, I have been on camping trips and used pit toilets when my kids were potty training and it wasn't the best experience. So, we've heard that and loud and clear from our residents. Expanded community engagement opportunities and programs. We want to make sure our outdoor education programs are offered to every school child in the county. And then continuing to focus on land protection. So as we talk about that, and we're currently at 0.33. So if we just did a renewal, about 88% of our millage funding goes towards our operating costs. And then we would have 12% that we would set aside just for that organizational quality. So reinvesting in that aging infrastructure. We can take care of what we have, but we would likely need to tighten our belt a little bit, reduce some of our expenses, and increase some of our cost recovery through higher fees and charges to maintain the existing system. So the Parks Commission unanimously recommended a 0.2 mil increase to 0.53. This is being considered by the Board of Commissioners right now. We had a public work session this week, and then there will be a public hearing in April. So, and these are the things we would want to try to do is we would have 22 projects that would focus on conservation, increasing biodiversity, habitat improvements. We would have 17 projects working on connectivity, so new areas made accessible for public use, new trail development and network completion, really looking at our regional trail systems, where are those gaps, how can we align with the local jurisdictions, making sure that they're making the connections. Community engagement, so 15 projects. So really, as you saw, we served about 5,000 students this past year. Our goal at the end of this next millage in 10 years that we're serving over 25,000 students across the county. So new facilities, expanded outdoor education opportunities throughout the county and for everybody. So then again, the organizational quality, really reinvesting in those facilities, that infrastructure we have, upgrading our restrooms, making those facilities accessible, and in cases where it makes sense, having them operate year-round. And then again, having funding set aside for strategic land acquisition and protection. So continuing to leverage those grants and philanthropic dollars to continue that work. So when we look at a distribution, this shows we tried to split up the county and regions, and then look and be able to show, at 0.33, this is the funding that we can invest, and then how, leveraging those millage dollars, how we would then increase the investment and expand that investment out in the different regions. So I think this is the time we allow folks some question and answers. So Katie, do we have any questions in the box, or if folks want to raise their hand?
Yeah, feel free to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand in Zoom. You can take yourself off, or you can put your camera on and raise your hand, or whatever works best for you. We are happy to answer your questions. And Jason, thank you so much for being here today. I know Jason and I both tend to talk a little fast, and we covered a lot of information today, but we are happy to answer any of your questions.
And these reports are all online. So, and then some of the slides that had the information on the millage, we did a presentation to the Board of the Commissioners this past week. Those slides came right out of that presentation. We're going to make sure that those get uploaded on our website as well, and under our plans document. So anybody can go and look at the various components.
So far, no questions. Kathy says thank you. James doesn't have any questions. Yes, James, we have come a long way, right? Yeah, thank you so much. We've got hands clapping. Thank you so much.
And Dawn, thank you for your comments this week at the Board of Commissioners meeting. Very, very moving and impactful. Thanks for coming out and saying a few words.
Kirsten, yes, thank you for being here. And yes, it has been a wonderful journey. I am new to Ottawa County Parks and the Parks Foundation, so I'm very privileged to be able to kind of jump into this phenomenal team, and having worked with parks in other areas of the country on the national level, I am really just wowed and amazed by what this community has been able to put together for their parks, and how supportive community members here have been, and how forward thinking 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, to really preserve some amazing landscapes for the entire community, as well as tourists to appreciate and use.
Well, and I think as we're closing, as we talk about, so the millage is one component of our funding model, but as we look to the future, the foundation's still going to be a strong partner. So if we renew at 0.33, we know for anything new, we're going to have to partner with the foundation and try to meet those needs of the public. They've made it loud and clear what they want us to do. So that's one opportunity. But even if we increase the millage, we want to make sure that in 10 or 20 years, you know, through the grants and philanthropic community, we build a system that supports the parks in the future, and we won't have a need to go back and ask for an additional increase. So as we look at our campaigns, so for example, with Rosie Mound, you know, we built in a portion of that funding to set aside for future major capital renovations. So we built into that first campaign. And we'll look at that as we proceed to the future. We talked about our memorial and tribute program with our benches. So those proceeds, that little bit that goes to the foundation, or if somebody wants to have a tribute that is around in perpetuity, they can pay $20,000 over 4 years. That goes into a fund that long-term, our goal is to be able then to support all of our site amenities. So when you walk into a park and you see signage or benches or playgrounds or the kiosk, you know, those are site amenities, and over time, we hope to be able to build a fund through the donations and the memorial and bench program that then those are taken care of by the foundation long-term. So we can take those off of the millage.
Here's a question.
Oh,
Yes, yes, we do have a great question here from Dan. Dan has asked, does the foundation or the parks, I think, have any plans for a new mountain bike trail system? There needs to be something in Allendale, Coopersville area, maybe a collaboration with GVSU along the Grand River. Great opportunity with elevation change. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the work in connection with GVSU or some of the projects coming up?
Yep. No, so so with GVSU in particular, we've worked with them. They have several actually number of parcels of land that GVSU owns that we would be interested in maintaining or working with them to develop, just with hiking trails, but there are opportunities there for mountain biking. We know that, you know, connecting in along the Grand River, we have several parks that might lend itself. So we talked about the Bend area. You know, we'll go through a master planning process with the public. There are some areas at the Bend area that might lend themselves to some mountain biking. Now, that might be not as advanced as some of the hills and the ravines that other folks have. But no, mountain biking is certainly one of those uses that we know there's always a lot of demand for. So every acquisition we have, we try to do a robust planning process to try to determine what fits best there. So, yeah.
That is a great question, Dan. Thank you. And we know that there is a strong mountain biking community here in West Michigan. We've been working closely with Velo Kids as one of our partners as they try to get more and more kids out mountain biking and on bikes. And we're also trying to learn what we can from Bentonville, Arkansas, and how they incorporated their trail planning with bigger, broader community aspects. So one of the pieces that I have been impressed with is how much there is community impact in the planning of Ottawa County Parks and really listening to the community members and what they want. So thank you so much for that question and your interest, and we are grateful to have folks using the trails in such a wide variety of ways. Dan says he's 68, so get going.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Dan, we're working on it.
Lots of these projects take, right, literally, Rosie Mound was envisioned, 30 years ago. The Bend area was, I think the original master plan was done in 2000. And, we're going to update the Pigeon River master plan, which was done in 2000. It's now 26 years old, and update some of those. And, that's, we always, that's part of the community engagement, is understanding what the community wants and needs, and, working to try to fulfill that. So yeah, sometimes it takes a while.
Yeah.
As I said, with Rosie Mound, that was a promise fulfilled. So we still have quite a few of those to work on.
I do want to recognize that we've got several foundation and I believe that we have some Parks Commission. Do we have? Yeah. Anyways, we do have several foundation board members who are joining us today. I do want to thank those foundation board members for being here and joining us. I believe we have Shelley and Anita on. We thank them for their guidance. And we also thank those from establishing the foundation 10 years ago and their forethought. Tremendous gratitude to all of you for your guidance. So thank you so much for being here and for all of the work that you contribute to the Park Foundation as well as to Ottawa County Parks. If we don't have any other questions, I do want to highlight some things that we have coming up. We have Connected County Park. If you were here for our presentation back in January, we learned a little bit about what Connected County Park is, which we will have a kickoff event on April 4th from 12 to 3:30 at Hemlock Crossing. Connected County Park is really looking at how we as individual residents in Ottawa County and beyond can contribute to protecting our landscape through our own gardens or through our own landscaping. So whether it is a 1-by-1 plant that helps our butterflies, or it is your entire yard or your corporate landscape, there are ways that we can help protect our local ecosystem. So feel free to join us for that event on Saturday, April 4th, where you can learn a whole lot more. Or you can also join us for Art for the Parks. You can see, obviously, our natural landscapes are a great way to inspire our artists. And our artists do such a wonderful job of telling the story and value and connections, that human connection with our landscape. So feel free to join us on April 25th from 5 to 8, again at Hemlock Crossing, the Nature Education Center. There will be 40 to 50 artists establishing some really phenomenal, or showcasing some really phenomenal pieces of art. So we would love to have you join us there. And then also, Jason has taken us on the trails this year. We have a new Leadership Perspectives hiking series this year. So feel free to join us early in the morning, get a jump on your day, as Jason will take you on tours of a wide variety of our parks. Right here on the slide are a few of the dates. You can check the website to always get updates. And as I believe we've added just a couple more dates. So lots going on in the next couple months. And we do hope to see you at some of these events and definitely out there on the trails. If we don't have any more questions, oh, we do want your feedback. Since the Parks and Purpose is a new program for us, we're always looking for feedback. Would love to have you take a moment to fill out a very, very short survey. Give us some feedback on if you like this format, if it was easy to participate in, and that really helps to guide us in what we should be offering to our foundation audience. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to give you a few extra minutes in your day here and hope to see you out on the trails. Thanks so much.